Without people like the Genshin scientists, who I watch, as you can see, virtually every single video, like Jeff, all the amazing work that's done at Kaching Mains, the GC database, where we can do DPS simulations for teams, I truly would not be able to do what I do without theorycrafter. And all of the ones that I've mentioned work really hard at providing context and not letting misinformation spread. However, through no fault of anyone that I've mentioned, there is a huge misconception that's out there. It is skewing people's perceptions of their characters, and it might make certain people waste days, weeks, or months of their resin building their characters wrong. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Like all great discoveries, this one was born out of love. I've been using this website for a while, but I recently looked up all my favorite characters' teams, and the one that came out having the highest DPS was Resin National, which made me mad, but not as mad as when I looked at Raiden's build. Tenacity of the Millilith, Favonius Lance, Raiden. And not just by a little bit either. 63k versus 55k. That is a really big difference. And in my mind, I've tested this team. I'm like, there's no way that Raiden's damage is not significant. And I popped over to the Raiden Hyper and compared also at 50,000. Interesting. But then I saw something that made my blood boil. Raiden Hyper Bloom with Fischl getting 77k. A time and a half stronger. This is so much stronger, it's unbelievable. This is a truly massive difference. And it's a difference, to be honest, that's completely at odds with my own testing. In my testing, my Raiden National team gets somewhat comparable clear times, at most 10% less, if not on equal grounds. And my Raiden Yaimiko team, which is fairly similar to a Raiden Hyper team, was getting also very similar results. And so I just had to wonder why. And the answer lies right here. Raiden in Raiden Hyper does 86% of the team damage. And in Raiden Yai, the combination do a total of 81% of the team's damage. And that's when I saw it. R3 Favonius Sword, R3 Dragon's Bane, R3 Widsith. Why are they using R3 weapon? But the smoking gun was in the stats. It's hard to show here, but if you convert the stats shown, you get a crit value for Raiden of about 205 to 207, depending on which exact calc you're looking at. And I thought to myself, hold on, I wonder if it makes a difference that my Raiden is almost a 240 crit value. So I put in my Raiden. I gave her R5 the catch, same as theirs. The only thing I did was I crowned her burst, and I put in my artifacts instead of theirs. Now let's remember, the previous Raiden was getting 50k compared to the Hyper Bloom variant of 78k. I was feeling that my teams performed comparably. So I put her in, catch R5, same stats, everything else. I crowned Raiden's talent, and lo and behold, 75.8k. Very comparable, especially considering that this is an AoE team compared to a single target team. I breathed a sigh of relief. I realized that unless you know the context, spreadsheets don't tell the whole story. And don't get me wrong, Zajef, even KQM, and Genshin Scientist, all of them, they will make sure that you get the context when they present their calculations for you. The problem comes when people like me or other people take the wonderful tools that they've created without the context and use this DPS versus this DPS, and they say Raiden Hyper Bloom is way better than Raiden Hyper, when in reality, it's just not the case. If you actually invest and give yourself a good Raiden, she will perform very comparably to Raiden Hyper Bloom. And again, this is an AoE team, so you could argue that this is better because this is single target damage. So I had to reevaluate a whole ton of characters. Any character that's doing a high percentage of the team damage, I can no longer rely on just a website like this or on just my own artifacts unless I have hyper invested. So I know that if I put in another 40 crit value into my Wanderer, I crowned his talents, even without a 5-star weapon, but especially with one, I know that he could perform up to 50% better than he's performing now, which boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. A 50% damage, that's a minute 30 to down to a minute. That is a wild difference just from some increase in artifacts, some talent level. But at the beginning of the video, I promised you that there were mistakes that were happening that were making people waste resin. And that is very true. I've seen a lot of people talk about whether or not the new Mariachi Band Hunter artifact set is better for Zhao than his signature. And I'm not calling everyone out for this because I know, and just to further prove my, we've got a low investment Zhao with the deathmatch, And C6 Farazan getting 54k. But again, this is with about 200 crit value, maybe 205. This is what he gets when you give him similar stats to my Raiden, which is 240 crit value. It's a massive difference, and that's a lot of single target damage considering Zhao is an AoE character. So here's what we're looking at. The Mariachi Band Hunter artifact set. When current HP increases or decreases, crit rate will be increased by 12% for 5 seconds, max 3 stacks. So this is so much crit rate that people were saying that when current HP increases or decreases, that this set would be an upgrade over Zhao's 4-piece Vermilion artifact set, which is a signature for him. And this is a big deal because if this is an upgrade, those dedicated Zhao mains will now need to farm a brand new artifact set. But let's take a look. This is with his signature set. This is the best case scenario with the Staff of Homa with the Mariachi Band Hunter set. You need to use the Staff of Homa because if you're using the Jade Wing Spear, you're going to overcap on crit rate because of Zhao's crit ascension stat. You'll essentially cap on crit rate with the Jade Wing Spear even with one substat of crit rate roll. But even if you don't overcap on crit rate, the absolute very max damage you could possibly do is still substantially lower than with his signature artifact set. But when you're at low investment, the new set does perform better. And this is where the whole problem comes to at its root. The core assumptions made for all the characters on this sim are using relatively low artifact quality standards. 205 crit value, to be honest, is pretty decent for maybe a sub DPS like my Xingqiu, but it's nowhere near where someone should be satisfied with a hyper carry such as Zhao or with Raiden. You're definitely going to want at least 230, 240, maybe even higher crit value as you min-max your character, because that is what that character, where you get that character's strength from. And so with a low crit value, this set will be an upgrade. But if you're actually a min-maxer, you might farm this entire set and then find that you actually do less damage than if you actually use the Vermilions. Again, this video does not exist to bash theory crafters. I watch every single one of Zajeff's videos and I encourage you to do so as well. Same with the Genshin Scientist. Go check out Flip. He helped a ton with the calcs for this and other videos. Same with Kaching mains. I watch a ton of their videos and I use their website and refer people to it all the time. But it's very important that if you are going to use tools like the GC Sim calculator, it uses those standards that have a lower version of crit value and does not necessarily reflect your stat. I just wanted to provide some context to where people have missed the context when they're posting about online. Again, I do know there is great information out there. I'm not bashing anyone. I'm just want to give some clarity and some things that I discovered for some other people that haven't discovered them yet. If you've been enjoying the content, please consider liking, please consider subscribing. If you want to support the channel, you can check out the cool member benefits we now have for being a YouTube member. You can also check out my Patreon. Feel free to join our Discord. We have a great community of awesome people. And if you don't want to do any of those things, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much and bye for now.